Welcome to Epic Geek Out, the only show on the internet that's really looking forward to the sequel to Lincoln. I'm your host, Rob.
And I'm your host, Chad, and today we're talking about Steven Spielberg's new film, Lincoln.
Joke sequel, he gets shot at the end, spoiler alert. But on Thursday, we are going to...
Too soon.
Is it? No. On Thursday, we're going to be checking out the internet and checking out some podcasts that we love and giving our thanks throughout the whole episode because it is Turkey Day. It's a special day of the year. So,
as always, you can check us out over at Twitter at Epic Geek Out. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/epicgeekout. And also check out the website, www.epicgeekout.com. But let's get into our review of Lincoln. So Lincoln is Steven Spielberg's new film starring the incredible Daniel Day-Lewis as the title character, Sally Field, Tommy Lee Jones, and truly an amazing cast from there on out. You know, even just little bit players are these, you know, tour de force actors and really tremendous cast. It's the story of Lincoln. In this version, he's not killing vampires, but it is pretty, it's not really, it doesn't go over his childhood or his rise to fame. It starts out, he is president, and it's kind of the point in his presidency where he's trying to ratify the 13th Amendment. You know, there's a tremendous amount of
political
intrigue that goes into that. It needs to be ratified. It already got passed in the Senate. Now they're working on Congress, which it's so funny because you can see the unwillingness for people to work together back then, even how it is today. It lends itself, you know, really well to our current situation in politics. But, you know, to ratify the Constitution, you need a 2/3 vote, which is just nearly impossible to get. So it shows how this amendment was passed and how that had what effects that had on the Civil War. So, you know, it's
something that seems so obvious now. Back then was a huge issue for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's a pretty epic movie. The time period is just, it's done so well. But what was your impressions of the movie?
Well, I wasn't really looking forward to this that much. I was looking forward to it in the fact that it was Spielberg and it was getting really good reviews.
2 hours, 20+ minutes long, which
it's long.
It's long, it is.
And it's a period piece, which I've said before that it's not really my bag, you know? Yeah, I knew it was going to be a little talky and boring at parts, but I was really impressed. I really covered a period of Lincoln's life, and I don't know too much about Lincoln in general, but it covered a period of his life that focused on things that I was completely interested with, but I had not known a lot about. I was anticipating, you know, Civil War stuff. It touches briefly on that, but it's more about, like you're saying, the ratification of the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery, and all the crazy machinations of what had to go on behind the scenes to make that happen. Yeah. It's pretty incredible. I felt this movie had a pace to it that was like impossible to do. I don't know how they managed to.
I agree. Every
scene moved along, and there was no scene that was too long, which is weird.
And very different. Let me just touch on that for a second. Very different pacing than any other movie.
Yeah.
It didn't. There were some points, some shots that didn't feel like a movie, but I think because of the subject matter and because of what they attempted to pull off in this and did, in my opinion, but like, it was so different than a normal movie-going experience in that, but not one that was like took you out of something like a tree of life, you know, like a movie like that where it's like this is so different that I can't digest it.
Yeah, there's like 10 to 15 epic monologues in this movie. I mean, like it was every bit like what a good film should be, and I think that this, I hope, is up for Best Picture. I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to get it, but
it is.
It's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those that definitely deserves it if it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, like the way this was written was at points difficult for me to grasp a lot of stuff that was going on, especially because I wasn't familiar with all, you know, the history behind it. But
some of the things they called each other in the movie.
Yeah, it was funny too. I mean, like, and funny in like an old timey way.
Yeah,
like,
very old timey.
This is what we call people back then, you know. It's kind of crazy. Acting like superb, everything
incredible.
Everything like you would expect from a Spielberg movie. This felt very similar to Saving Private Ryan for me. It covered a period of history, did it very well. Actually the score sounded almost identical, which was interesting. But overall, just really impressed with it. He looked like Lincoln, he acted like Lincoln, which is crazy. And I was just really interested in what was going on, which I didn't think that it would be, especially because we saw it Sunday night, and it was going on the late hours.
Yeah.
So, it kept me interested the whole time. And I think that if you're at all interested in this period of history, even if you aren't necessarily interested, but you don't know a lot about it, I think you should go see it, because it really does convey a lot of interesting information. So I actually want to go read the biography.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really agree. I'm going to parrot a lot of the things Chad said, but it really is a movie that should be seen by everyone. It's a different experience. I'll say a couple complaints that I had about the movie. I didn't like the way it ended. I think, if you know the story of Lincoln, you kind of can see where a good ending was. But there are a couple points where I think they could have ended the movie before and not even touched on that. And I hope to God people understand that would have happened.
An interview with Spielberg, and I think that you almost have to, because if you didn't end it with that, people would have been expecting it, but also you didn't want to exploit that, so that's why they didn't show it. So
and I understand that. Well, yeah, that
I think that he said a lot of movies have done these. I was talking about the assassination of Lincoln. A lot of movies have done that, but he didn't want to really. He didn't want the movie to be about
read
that.
A book.
He didn't want the movie to be about that. So I think that he did what he could, and I see what you're saying.
But I don't even touch on it. I mean, because this was a movie about the ratification of the 13th Amendment and the big players in it. Right. Lincoln had a tremendous amount of screen time because, he was the president at the time, but Tommy Lee Jones' character, who's from who represented Lancaster, had a tremendous amount of screen time as well. And, I mean, this movie was shot, the settings that they put these characters in were tremendous, and they felt so real, so very real. And Daniel Day-Lewis's Lincoln was uncanny. Granted, I've never met the man, but it filled every expectation of what you would expect him to be without actually being what he's been portrayed as before. I mean, apparently Lincoln has a very high-pitched voice, and he had this commanding whisper. When he spoke, the room stopped. And he had these different moments where he told these stories, and it was great because even at points in the movie, some of his cabinet members were like, not another story, things like this. But the way he commanded the room
and the words
in the movie, I can imagine these actors who were just playing young Union soldiers were like, I don't need to act. I'm literally, that is Lincoln telling a story, in front of me. It was amazing to hear his command of the room. Sometimes it's just his gaze when he looked off into the distance, when you saw his brain working. Truly, it was transformative. I did not see him in the role at all. I was like watching Lincoln. Tommy Lee Jones, I thought did a tremendous job, but it looked like Tommy Lee Jones for most of the part. And, I think he did a great job acting, but they just achieved a new level in this that I really can't remember another movie doing recently or really seeing. And it's worth the price of admission just to, even if they just broke the movie down to him telling the stories when he was talking, not even in conversation, and just hearing those stories he told and the way he orated them. It was just incredible. It was so well done.
It was an immersive period piece, and I think that it succeeded on every level with that, and every level portraying Lincoln. And I think that's all that it was really trying to do, But it also had this cool story that I'm sure a lot of people don't know, Everyone knows the Civil War. I mean, most people know about the Civil War and kind of a little bit more detail. I mean, we're East Coast, so a lot of the battles happened here, like Gettysburg and stuff. But it's just this part of it is so cool and
the decisions that weighed on him and how he battled with that was incredible. I mean, he got this passed because he did offer some jobs to lame duck congressmen who were voted out, and really try to get this through. But by getting this through, he also stopped the war. I mean, it's that one person, and there's this wonderful story he tells about having to make the right choice. And it might not be the right choice at that point in time about the older woman and who he defended earlier in his career. It might not be the right choice at that given point, but if you know in your heart that it is the right choice and it's going to be looked back on history as the correct thing to do and the thing that I just thought that was brilliant, and that was so beautifully put. And you know, there were a couple movie moments in this that I took not offense to, but like when they were going over the bill, like they must have just shown everyone say no, because it certainly sounded like there were more no's than yeses that were said.
Right. And well, they didn't even show Tommy Lee Jones saying anything. So I mean,
and I understand they did it for the suspense and whatnot, but it was just great. It was just a very, very well done movie, and the acting is top notch. It should be seen.
I think it was interesting, the contrast to today's politics, and I think it came at a perfect time for that, because it is really interesting how, like, this man is like a revered president, one of the top 3, they say. You know? But like, he did things that weren't, you know, the most moral things, I guess you could say. But he did it for reasons that
were
now,
moral.
you know, now it's like obvious. It's like, oh, that's so uncivilized. Why would we ever do that? But the arguments that people have in this movie, like, they're serious about not abolishing slavery, you know?
And even people who think slavery should be abolished had reasons that they thought were altruistic and they thought were for the good of, you know, the slaves, but it wasn't. And I mean, you know, and it was great. And seeing people's decisions when they were voting in Congress was, you know, very well done. And
one thing that I did kind of took me out of it, I feel like they way too often called out, oh, next we're going to give women the right to vote, or oh, are the blacks going to get to vote now? You know, I feel like that was way too, because they played on the fact that we know that is now a thing.
Well, I think I think what they showed I think they only mentioned the women voting once, but it was funny because everyone, even the people who were for ratifying the 13th Amendment, were like, no, don't do that. That's crazy. Yeah. To show that, you know, even though these people are trying, they were still hindered by the period in which they were in. But I mean, it's definitely a go-see, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it's definitely an interesting time period and a lot of new stuff. Even if you know Lincoln, you probably don't know a lot about this. So check it out.
So it is Thanksgiving week. We're going to be doing our Thanksgiving Day Thursday episode. But like always, we're going to give our thanks. So Chad, what are you thankful for today?
I got a late one, but a goodie. I caught a couple weeks ago around Halloween time the Mockingbird Lane one-off kind of pilot. I guess it was
It was originally a pilot, but not
they didn't want to
really.
pick it up. It is the kind of reboot of the Munsters franchise TV. New one. I really liked it. It's a quirky, weird thing, but it was. I thought it was better than what I expected. You know, because there were definitely call-outs, which was awesome to the old show, but there was a lot of new stuff too. Like Eddie Izzard was awesome in it, I think. Jerry O'Connell, that's his name, right? He was better than I thought he would be. I think the weakest part was Portia de Rossi was kind of just blah, but she wasn't bad. She was just, you know, she didn't bring any presence like the old actress did. But really cool. I think it's on the website, NBC.com. So check it out. It's called Mockingbird Lane. I wouldn't be upset if they picked it up as a show, but I doubt it because it didn't get like stellar reviews or ratings. But you know, some people watched it.
It was cool. Awful time to. I mean,
it was like Friday night.
And didn't put any advertising out for it. But
it was cool. And if you were following this at all, I mean, it's been in the works for a while, so it's definitely something to check out. A little fruit of the labor of the show. So check it out.
Yeah, and I'm going to thank something we've talked about before on the show, but it continues to blow my mind. The Walking Dead, in general, I would like to thank.
We've thanked this like 8 times.
Well, but I'm going to do my specific thanks. I've just picked up the comics from the library. Again, reading is golden. I don't know. I think that's what they told us as kids. But
silence is golden.
Damn it. But you should be silent when reading in the library. So I'm now through 5 volumes of the 14 that are out, and it is an awesome juxtaposition to the characters that I love on the TV show and seeing how they actually got started, what they were like. I'm so happy I watched the show first because, again, season 3 is blowing my mind. It's crazy. It's awesome. It's such good TV. But, and then just seeing the characters that are still alive, the characters that are dead, you know, Shane gets popped in like the first comic, which is so funny. It's just really great. It's really great juxtaposition of both of those, and to see something that is so great, and reading Kirkman's intro about how, you know, zombie movies are great, there's all this action, then it kind of ends. He wanted that movie just to keep going and to keep going and to keep going, and like comic books was a perfect way to do it, and then how they translated in TV was awesome. So check those out if you're a fan of the show. I gave actually the books to a friend who's not into comics, and he said he's enjoying them as well. So it might be a good way to get into comics. So definitely check that out.
The show,
yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
So we'll be back on Thursday. It's Thanksgiving in the U.S. And we will be back with some thanks of some podcasts that we like and we listen to, so you guys can check them out as well. So make sure you come and check back for that. But thanks for watching. Have a great day.